Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Horsemanship Remarks show. It's July, if you can believe that, 2023, which means that summer is flying by, which is the worst because we love summer. Love summer. So, I can't wait to talk to Michael. Good morning, everybody. Joanne, Susan, Jody. Here's Michael. A few other. Dale. Hi, good morning. Julie. Oh, Julie, I missed a phone call from you. Sorry. Val, good morning. Here, Michael, let's go. Let's see. Hello, Michael Sparling. Are you there? Isn't it fun I get to be on the show this week?
Good morning.
How
Good.
are you this morning?
Good. My camera's on. There we go.
Camera
I'm good. How are you?
barely in the shot here. I'm good. I'm good. So we had a little bit of a heat wave the last 2 days, like 97.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so it's not the end of the world.
Can't be possibly what we had last week, but that is a heat wave.
What'd you have last week?
It wasn't that. The high 80s, but humid and uncomfortable, and
Let me just
so
fix
I
it.
don't want to be a complainer, but
Nobody wants to be a complainer.
well,
How about this?
sometimes I don't mind, but I try not to be a complainer on Instagram.
Yeah, right.
So,
Well, so anyway, now it's going to be 80, high of 80, low of like 45 for the next 2 weeks.
no.
Yes, so that's awesome. Good morning, Nicole. Oh, tell Michael what a fun time we had.
Don't. I know you had a fun time. You don't need to rub it in. Just tell me the highlights. Well, tell me everything, but just don't emphasize how cool it was. Tell me everything without emphasizing how cool it was. I missed being there.
So we missed you every day. Every day we thought about you and missed you. Okay, so the first thing, and I'm glad Flora's not on the show this morning. I don't think she's here yet. Oh my God. The girl is...
A colt or
her,
both, I'm sure.
Her.
What's that?
Her. Like, so we don't want to get too excited because she could really, she's only 19, so she could totally change her mind and do something else. But we're all like...
Pretty drop dead serious.
We're trying to like not get too excited. Extraordinary. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say about that other than it's very exciting and we're all trying to not get too attached to the outcome. So who keeps clicking the join button? See, you're so missed, Michael. And yes, Flora is a rock star. Yeah, so the thing is, she's managed to keep the love and the lightheartedness along. I mean, I'm not saying she's never stressed. She was telling me that at times she is stressed out, but there's a smoothness. And Michael, remember how we were talking after Santa Cruz? I was referring to this disconnection, core to limbs thing in some of the folks that we saw. So she's the opposite. Her body is connected. And anyway, so that was a highlight. And Clem, too. Of course, Clem's questions are the best, and he's tall in his graphic tee with his aviators and his hat. And you're like, first of all, you're not wearing a costume, which is amazing, and second of all, the way that he's asking questions is really valuable to be around just because he's thought things out, it's, hey, Buck, so this and that is happening and I'm wondering what the best thing is to do here and there versus like, I'm having trouble with this, right? So that was exciting, but we're all trying to keep it pushed out of our mind because once again, anything could happen. They could totally change their mind or whatever. But anyway, let's see. The other thing, I have to jump to the colt class again. I want to talk some about boring also, but Michael, it was the best colt class I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Including Sheridan. Single person was handy. They you know, there were few people that weren't. But, and you guys that were there, help me describe it. It was so cool because basically I think what happened was there were enough handy people with an attitude that was love driven. I mean, as best that you can say, there was, at least in that environment, no ego, because they trusted Buck. And I'm talking, you know, Flora, Clem, John, Megan, Danny. Oh, I'm forgetting a couple people. I'm sorry. Riley. You know, and they were smooth. And they did not act to me like they had anything to prove.
Mm.
They were there to have fun and to, you know, trusted Buck, trusted the process, knew enough of the curriculum that they weren't, you know, totally lost. But here's what happened. It was so amazing. Because of their friendly attitude and because it was an atmosphere where they did trust the teacher and were comfortable enough with the teacher, like, because they knew him well enough and he knew them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting a couple people. It'll probably come to me. It tipped everyone else over into that. It just sucked them into that feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, for those of you guys that have not been there, so it's Columbia County Fairgrounds in Dayton, Washington, not fancy, you know, and the indoor has good footing now, but it's kind of small. So, you know, you have the round pen there and basically it must be, what do you think, 120? 120 by 7.
There's only slightly more than a second room for a second round corral in there. So it's like 60-foot round corral plus, you know, 70 by 75 or 80, maybe. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, like, not big. And so the point is that it very much feels like a classroom that includes everyone. So I won't belabor the point, but it was so fun. I was not in class. I was in the afternoon class. But it was so fun to sit on the fence, just bursting with pride, basically, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it was such a pleasure. So, you know, everybody goes through the thing. By the afternoon, you know, everybody was riding and there was no drama, even though some people were maybe a little bit greener and some people who I feel like could easily have gotten into the, you know, personally bracy mode because maybe they weren't as handy or maybe, you know, their horses weren't as smooth and kind of got a little bit lost, you know, at times. But because they were surrounded by people who were comfortable and in a good zone, and then, you know, they'd look up and the person next to them would smile and be like, "You're good," you know, and you know, I, of course, being in Sheridan was similar to me, you know, being the rookie and amongst, I don't know. Anyway, none of the horses had issues or had, you
Sounds
know,
like a smaller group too. I mean, you didn't list everyone, but
that is a good, no, because there's probably 15 people, I guess. So maybe that is, I mean,
definitely
that is
smaller than Sheridan.
Yeah. I would say there's 15, maybe 16 or so. So it was not half, I don't think, of the people that were handy, but it was definitely a tipping point. And once again, it's not just that they were handy, but they were friendly and confident with the teacher, nothing to prove, just there to learn. I hope I'm not being disrespectful by describing all of that. But it just made for this super smooth feeling. And you know, a couple horses bucked around with the saddle, not too big of a deal. You know, but a few, of course. And Buck flagged him for a while. That was the other thing. And that was really cool because I don't get to watch him do it very often, really, once a year or twice a year or something like that. So I was asking more questions, like, what are you doing? But once again, that has to be a situation where he feels happy and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we made him happy and comfortable for the show. That's what it is. But so it was cool because it took time to get them organized and settled, and he talked more through what he was doing, which was helpful to me because I don't know it all. I don't look at him and be like, okay, I know for sure these are the things that he's doing, or this is what he's focused on.
So what did he say? What was he watching? What was he looking for in the horses? What was he shifting? I mean, I know he kind of generally is looking for horses that are not yielding and watching for a shift where they are yielding. They're kind of joining the herd, giving he and his horse a little bit of respect to go, okay, you're coming into my space, I'm going to move off, rather than just blow through you. Or, I mean, anyone who's seen that has probably noticed that part of it. But what else was he describing?
I guess I can't think of anything else that there really was. I guess
He was telling us all these things. It was really cool, but I can't remember it.
Well, yeah, but there's nothing more, not like some big other huge thing. It's just like, because the herd was pretty scattered at first,
Mm-hmm.
but there weren't any majorly pushy horses. There were a couple that were pushy-ish, you know, and I think 2 that were very married up, and one, Riley's horse, was like following Buck, this 14 one-hand, you know, Palomino quarter horse, super cute little thing, and she's like, right away she was onto it. It was so cute. And you know how Buck reaches back with his flag and just kind of, it's like, yeah, you're good. So Corey, oh, hold on. He talked about smooth transitions. Oh, yeah. So he talked about smooth transitions. Good point, Corey. But also, you know, him sort of referring to the horse that he was focusing on. And so it wasn't just like when he went there that they would move, but like that they would kind of keep track of him from far, you know. So
they were staying hooked on, not just getting out of the way or away from pressure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I still think to myself, you know, I can't see it all compared to like
another way of describing that, I think, is a thoughtful acknowledgement as opposed to a whether it's an acknowledgement when they first yield or shifting out across the pen, it's staying connected.
And like Corey said, so then smooth transitions
As a result, yeah.
Yeah, and he did not rush it. And like I said, the other thing was the herd didn't come together quickly. And yet it wasn't, you know, some big shit show either. So it was easier to kind of see him working each individual horse. And there wasn't, like I said, like one specific horse that had lost its mind. Jolene's horse, this really, really pretty warm blood, she was kind of the one you noticed the most, but
it was the warm bloods.
Yeah, I know those warm bloods problem. She's a very hot little wispy thing though. But even that wasn't like some majorly huge drama. So anyway, it was really cool to watch that. And like I said, he took a lot of time, which was great. So then everybody just caught their horses up. And it was so cool, Michael, to watch, to go across the pen and just see people. All the horses were on a field and not jerky.
Mm-hmm.
I get on. Oh, no problem. So, and Buck made some comments in regards to Flora's horse, but you could see it in lots of other horses that they were not, it's not because they were all cupcakes. That's not what it was. It was just that it was methodical. And like Lisa just commented a bit ago, it depends on, you know, the group that you're in. And I think that's really, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the feeling that we talk about all the time of, are you in it for your ego? Are you in it for your soul? Do you generally understand the curriculum? And then how are you applying it? Are you applying it in order? Are you applying it with feel? Are you applying it with a student mindset? You know, knowing you're the leader, but not being hard about it. And like I said, there were a couple people that could have tipped over into that other side. We've seen it before. A little bit scared, a little bit, you know, kind of out of position or whatever. And occasionally Buck would say something like, you know, pretty seriously, but very rarely, and no one took it, no one got stressed about it, you know. So one buckskin kept leading a bay off track. Buck called out the bay would eventually act out against the buckskin, and it happened on day 2. Yeah, so he was not respecting the one that was the follower. He was, it was kind of funny because the buckskin was following the bay, thinking that the bay was going to save it. You know, it's like, you're hooked onto the wrong horsey, buddy.
No.
So, and it was also cool because at the very beginning of that, Beef was a little tiny bit unsettled. So you got to see Buck do, you know, what he needed to do to get settled. So that was very cool. Anyway, that was a major highlight. And so then I'll just skip forward to the horsemanship class, where once again, the student body was pretty experienced to varying degrees though, right? And I have to just say the noteworthy thing is the interaction between the teacher and the students. And so one of the girls, and if you're listening, I just want to compliment you on hanging in there. I don't remember her name. Maybe one of you guys. Anyway, I probably shouldn't say her name, but one of the girls, maybe it was her first clinic, I think. But you know how the big Dayton arena can be a little bit nerve-wracking for some horses that tend to be supported by fences maybe, or like if a horse is going to get troubled, you are in a big, huge space, which at first seems stressful. And then as you need room to work, then it's less stressful. But Buck had her get off right away, like pretty quickly, and have Dalton just do a tiny bit with it, just a little bit on the ground, hopped on, did some short serpentines, but not for very long, because the gal was pretty capable. It's just that she needed to adjust her technique just a tiny bit to be out and around so that the horse would bend. But you know, it was a bit tricky at first, you know, which means that the person on the greenest horse gets the right of way. Anyone who's on the broker horses, you need to maneuver your horse out of the way. But she didn't know necessarily that was the case. So there were a couple times, like for instance, I was talking to Buck at one time, she comes wiping out into me. Novella didn't care. It wasn't a big deal, you know. And by the time she kind of got towards me, the horse moved. But she looks at me like, I'm so sorry. And like, oh, you're good. You're doing a great job. Just keep going, you know? And so there were a few things like that, and to let that feeling of being safe in a learning environment spill out to the newer folks was so great. It's like,
it's gotta be fun for Buck too, to have that feeling of kind of just casual. I mean, that's what I'm kind of hearing you describe, is everyone's just very comfortable. And if they weren't comfortable, they found kind of an ease being around so many people that are like, no, worry about it. We know what's going on, and Buck's cool, but what's going on. So that
he mentioned it.
Gotta be funny. He did?
Yeah, he mentioned it on the last day because it was stressful at first. Her horse was pretty bothered, and she had to really kind of quickly learn the short serpentine.
Yeah.
And do it reasonably well. But for those of you guys that have done it, I mean, sometimes that means you got to kind of keep doing it. There's nothing else for it. And it's not like it ended up perfect at the end. But the point is, nobody cares if it's perfect. It does not matter. You just do your best, and that's it. And, of course, Buck gave the speech of like, don't bother trying to impress me. The only thing that's going to impress me is that you're trying. I mean, I was around Ray and Tom and Bill, and just give up trying to be impressive. Yeah. And that's the thing. Nobody was there to show off. I guess that's the thing. So I'll say one more thing about, and she mentioned it. The gal mentioned it at the end. Because the other thing about Dayton, for those of you guys that haven't been there, the barns are, you're kind of all in this barn together. So you're running into each other a good amount, after class and all of that. And so to be encouraging afterwards too was very cool. Who's saying?
That's the clinic environment. Oh, you go ahead. Read it.
No, okay. Let's get up here. That is the clinic environment I have always wanted to be a part of. Really hope I can be a part of Buck's clinics one day. I'm telling you. What's your name? Aussie Thoroughbred. Oh man, it was the best. Oh no, did I? Yeah, okay, cool. So Corey. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, it was like the dream. It was 100% the dream. So anyway, she said that at the end. She was just like, thank you, Buck, and everybody for being so supportive. And we're all like, you did amazing. Like, there is nothing you could have done better. Because you didn't know the exercise and your horse had never done it before, and you just tried your guts out for 3 days. What else is there to do?
Yeah.
So cool. And then, so I'm on Novella, right? By the way, there are people that do not respect her because she's so tiny. I'll tell you right now, I don't give a fuck because she's so fun. It doesn't make any difference to me. So anyone who thinks I'm going to stop riding the pony is high, because it is so fun and her base layer is amazing. Michael, I would saddle her at the truck and just leave. Like off you go. Oh, it's so fun. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so we're coming towards the golf course, right? With the chutes on the left. And this was, I think, on day 3. And there was a gentleman who maybe was a bit greener, like didn't have his technique exactly. And once again, someone who could have gotten tight in a different environment. But all these people actually do love their horses, right? So he's coming this way, because we really could just ride anywhere. Like, it's not like we really, so we're going in and out of traffic. It's a nice big space, and that let us do whatever we wanted, right? Anyway, so I'm kind of looking down, and then I look up, and this guy is petting his horse. Like, it finally kind of did a proper one rein stop. He's petting his horse, and I'm like, oh my God, I had to like ride off and like keep it together, because that's the dream, right? It was not perfect, but that was not the point, it was getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to enjoy his horse. That's the point. Buck did give a speech, to be fair, on day one about being lighthearted and not taking things too seriously and all of that. But I really think most of us knew that already. So, did we miss a comment?
Yeah, there's a couple comments there. Whoa. Thanks, Julie. Julie said, I call it crossing comfort zones. When someone with a bigger comfort zone can spill comfort over to someone who needs it. And when we feel comfortable, we can draw comfort from someone else. And then comfort can travel from humans to animals and vice versa. Yeah, I mean, Buck talks about that too, the horse supporting you versus you supporting the horse. You know, the horse building your confidence or comfort, yeah.
And it was like this big net underneath everything, you know, that everyone was contributing to. It was really, really freaking cool. Is Flora here this morning? Is she still not here? Hopefully she's sleeping. I know the same thing about Flora.
Join.
So on the 4th day of the colt start, Sunday, so she's on this tiny little horse, which by the way is going to be for sale. If anybody wants a little cow horse, quarter horse thing, little gelding, connect with Flora. I would put dibs on that horse if I were you. So on the 4th day, she's in the pen flagging the colts. Buck's in a chair. Flora's in the pen. But here's the thing. Her horse was totally prepared and maneuverable. And tiny, by the way. But there were 3 things that I feel like she did amazing. Number 1, she never tried to make the turns perfect. So for those of you guys that don't know, usually one of the things you do off a saddle horse with the colts is you help the rider get their hindquarters and their forequarters. Just gently. So she never tried to make the turns perfect. She just let them shape up. Number 1. Number 2, the way she made the riders feel, it was not condescending. It was not invasive. Even though sometimes, you know, the horses did brace a little bit. So a person could get scared, but because she wasn't trying to make anything happen or be the cool, you know. And she would look up at the riders. Like, you know how you've seen some people flag colts and they're staring at the colt, you know, and like the rider is not part of it. But that was part of it. And then, you know, watching her reach up and just swing her flag over the horse's hip and pet it, there was nothing you could have asked for more. No, they weren't super difficult colts or anything at that point, but she's on a colt, not trying to make it happen, just repeat. But her technique was right. Mm-hmm. But, you know, sometimes it doesn't, yeah. Having a spirit of cooperation with the rider and petting the horses when they were right.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, what I thought as you were saying that is, you know, not making less of anything she was offering there, but she's only really ever seen it that way. I mean, she's been around Buck so much since she was very young, clinic after clinic, year after year. Like, that's going to become a part of the way she interacts because it's what's been coming through her eyeballs and her senses for so long. So yeah, really cool I mean, I saw the same thing. I mean, she wasn't flagging a colt, but just the way she felt to the horse and what she was offering the horse in Sheridan was very much the same thing.
we probably really shouldn't be talking about it because we don't want to wreck her.
Yeah, I mean, Flora, don't listen.
It's real. Like, I guess the only reason I'm talking about it because it is a big risk to be talking about it too much, because it's a lot to ask for a 19-year-old to be that to get ahead of the pack that and have so much skill and stay, you know, to not feel the pressure necessarily, or to not get too egotistic. So if you guys are watching, don't tell her. Just, it's rough. It's rough because we don't want to wreck it. But you're 100% right. And you know what's amazing is the grown-ups are getting to be haters. Some of them. It's like, and Hannah and I were talking about it because you're exactly right. It's like, of course this is going to happen. Unless she didn't have parents guiding her and being like, you know, letting her do her thing, but having boundaries, right? We got to give John and Hannah credit for basically making this all happen, right? But I was thinking, you know, the Rich Strike Derby win.
Yeah.
Where he comes from behind. But like the overhead view in retrospect is obvious. Like the horse is coming.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is happening, not like the end, like Rich Strike. It's like, yeah, but did you not see him like coming from the back? So I think the same thing with Flora is like, oh, suddenly people are all surprised that she's what did you think was gonna happen?
Yeah.
You know, so funny. So funny. Anyway, let's not tell her, you guys, because we don't want to wreck it. She's going to be, you know, you could totally see her running the class at some point in the future. You know, that she would be able to do the cold starts, which would be really nice. So anyway, and I don't want to underplay Clem at all. He's just a few years behind. That's all.
Yeah.
Is there somebody else?
Yeah. Whoever our Aussie TV Criollo rider is. I don't know your name yet, but the simplest success in my dance with my 5-year-old mare right now is just being able to go out in the pasture for 3 days and catch her. That's brought me so much joy.
Aww. That's very cool. Yeah. And I mean, really, that's what we're after, right? But being around, I would just say additionally having access to great coaching and a curriculum that suits the horse, and you know, all of that is really, really valuable. So Taylor, hi Taylor. So anyway, that was the story with that.
Cool.
Yeah, it was.
So tell us more about Novella.
I love her. So you guys, I had Bonnie in the morning class in boring, and who, by the way, was just a little angel. She's so cute because, of course, she's never been to town, so her eyeballs were like this big. But she also is super clean, so she didn't know any better than to just stay with me and do what she's always done. So that's what she did. Mm-hmm. It was great. Oh, we didn't ride it all.
You had her last year, though. So she'd been to town. She was in Dayton last year.
Bonnie?
Oh, I thought you were still talking about Novella. Sorry, yes. I missed the transition to Bonnie.
So we're going back to the boring clinic. So I had Bonnie and Zorro, which leads me to Novella in the sense that it's like, well, good job riding a real horse. You know, and I'm like, because I'm riding the fun horse next week. So don't be talking shit about her because she's the best one.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And I don't know how to respond to that.
Shut up, Siri.
Just say, I agree. So anyways, yeah, no, Bonnie's never been to town. So it was asking a lot. And then Zorro was kind of funny because, you know, it was the first time he's been locked in a 12x12 for a long time. So right away, when we got there on Thursday night in boring, he was stressed. Like, he's like, and he can't crib on that thing, which is why he came to boring, you know. And by the way, he hasn't been at all amazing, but he was stressed out. And then the next thing I did to him was I took Bonnie out for the morning class on Friday. Like, bye. Have you been to the Mount Hood Equestrian Center?
I don't think I have.
Yeah.
Well, is that where years and years and years ago, you, Kip, Beth, and I were hanging out? No. I don't remember that was. I feel like that was in Corvallis, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember where that would have been. But
It
anyway.
wasn't a buck clinic. It was like some horse fair or something. Years and years ago.
Yeah, I don't think that was Mount Hood Equestrian Center, because that really only opened back up a few years ago. But anyways,
whatever. It's
concrete, it's blacktop. And yeah, he was stressed, Taylor. Oh my gosh, were you there? Oh, it was, only humorous in the sense that I felt bad for him, but also I knew he was going to get through it. But anyway, it's loud in there, I guess, is my point, because the horses, there were lots of green horses. It was great. And the student body at Boring was amazing too. Lots more greener horses. Lots. Like, but everybody got through it. But anyway, Friday was loud, like super, super loud. And Michael, it was probably Lynn County in Albany. That's what I was kind of thinking too. But why would we all have been there, Lisa? I don't know. Anyway, Friday was super loud. But you could hear Zorro. We're in the arena, and you could just hear him. And you remember when I got him, he was silent, right? He was so like
stoic,
silent. Yeah, very stoic. And now he's like, oh my God. And Bonnie is like leaning towards me. You know how horses do it, and she was doing it right away in class. She's like, and a few times she called out, she's like, he's really stressed out. He'll be fine. He'll make it. Oregon Horse Fair, maybe, Lisa says. Were we all together at the Oregon Horse Fair? We wouldn't have had horses then. Anyway, so poor Zorro. And then, of course, so that kind of set the stage for him being stressed. But on the other hand, it was really, really cool to just methodically go through it. Be like, you will be all right. And so things went really, really well with him, in the sense that his pockets of peace were very peaceful. The most interesting thing with him was we were getting along really well we did pretty good on the first day. It still makes him a little nervous, some things in that arena. And a lot of it has to do with associations, if that makes sense. It's like, I don't think it's that he can't handle things. It's the overall associations with it all that stress him out. Anyways, so then day 2, I kind of ventured off through the crowd earlier. But the thing is, we had 30 riders, I think, packed in to that arena. It's a big arena. But, if you need room to work, you can kind of end up not being able to do much, right? You just have to work within the space you have. And because we are the broker horse that, everybody else that was really, really struggling, you need to just stay out of their way. So it's a little harder to settle him without enough space. But anyway, things were going pretty well. So we ended up basically, though, in a situation where there wasn't a ton of space. We had our back to the crowd, which was all right. He's not as scared of it as he used to be. But because we couldn't really go forward, like I couldn't just let him flow forward, I was like, okay, well, let's stop and stay in the rectangle, which was okay for a couple seconds. But then we started piaffing, which was very quiet and good. So I thought, okay, even though we don't practice piaffe, but it's his best piaffe. in a long time. And he was trained in the pillars. And I think Wendy would attest to him maybe not really getting settled 100%. Anyway, the first like 5 seconds was fine. And I was just going to sit there and wait for him to just stop because I thought he would, because I was just sitting there. I wasn't asking for more, right? But it didn't. It got more and more and more stressed out. So I did have to do some one rein stops. And then that, because I didn't tighten them super a lot, but then that was it for the rest of the class. Then I had to focus on settling him. So it was really interesting. So then I asked Buck about it, I think the next day or the end of that day, or the end of the morning class, maybe on Sunday, as I was thinking about the best way to warm him up. And Buck's like, you need to be able to ride all over this arena with the horse where he's at. And then I had to tell him, like, look, we got stuck in a piaffe, and then that put him over the edge. But even so, he was not like beside himself in a way where he couldn't, like where it was before, where like I was basically just managing his feet, I would say a couple of years ago. This time he was coming back to me. But anyway, so the bottom line is, usually you could say to a horse that's that educated, stay in the rectangle. That's it. Stay in the rectangle. But you're kind of screwed if within the rectangle, a 100% still rectangle, you're still getting more stressed out.
Yeah.
So Buck's like, basically the note was, do your one rein stops, but do them in a tighter space, because his are correct, So basically, don't let it just go all over the arena and turn into something. If you can, just be like, because you have to go lateral, you cannot stay still, but try to keep it still where still, I'm not saying
settled into this. It's almost like do your one rein stops in a 12 by 12 pen, so we can find our way into the center of that pen, into the center of the rectangle. That's interesting.
That's right. So, that helped. And
would not have thought of that one.
Yeah, me either. But what's funny too is being on. It's like my mind was more on fire in that situation than I don't know. It's really interesting. I had a ton of thoughts and lots of ideas, and it's like, okay, what's the best way? How do you do this? Because it's not necessary. You have to do it all with feel. You can't really make anything happen. So what else was I going to say about that? There was something else I was going to say. Michael, listen to this. So on Saturday, that was his hard day, right? And about 3:30, I had him settled. So I forgot I told you already. So 3:30, I had him settled, and which took a bit, right? Because it was kind of early in class and he was stressed. So this was Saturday, yeah. So anyway, he's settled and Buck's giving a speech or something, and all of a sudden the ballroom behind the stands, once again, this building, is very cool, but it is connected. And so they crank the music. So the bass starts shaking the whole building. And Zorro's like, we're going to die. That's it. We're going to die. And I was like, yeah, not so much, But, and Deanna went hustling over there and had them turn it off. So you kind of want one or the other. Like you needed either to keep going, right? Or you needed to stop and be stopped. Well, Buck went long. I know I told you this already, but Buck went long, you guys. So 4:30 rolls around, and then I'm thinking, and my horse was still settled, and I'm thinking, if they were told to wait till 4:30, like they're going to be ready to roll, right? And so I'm sitting on Zoro, and I'm like, oh, come on, because I didn't want it to be where the music started and then everyone leaves. And then I could have gotten him settled. That would have been all right. But it would have been way too much easier with less horses in the arena. And then all the associations with like all the horses and the music. You would not be in a situation where you could really show him that it was fine. Whew, I was sweating it, but it didn't come on till later. Quite a bit later, actually. They were pretty cool about it. So we had ladies in, stilettos walking through the barns, petting all the horses, just dressed to the nines. And there were 6 girls carrying the dress.
This is a quinceañera, if anybody missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm like,
Did you get any pictures? Did you get any pictures of someone in their fancy dress petting Zorro?
No, I didn't, because I don't know. I didn't know if it was appropriate, but I was thinking, did I even get a birthday party on my 15th birthday? Was my wedding that fancy?
Yeah.
So anyway, those are all the super highlights that I can think of. Other than it was very cool to just see so many new folks and have them getting more comfortable. I did briefly work a horse on Friday in the foundation class.
And what was that?
For a few minutes.
What did that horse
We
need help?
We were going backwards and forwards along the wall, and he was kind of just blowing over the top of her. So she just basically
picked the shortest girl in the arena to help with that.
Which is, it worked. Like it didn't.
I know.
She just needed in her mind to see like block, and there you go.
And you're able to do that in the context of that particular exercise, which is something, because there wasn't really anywhere for the horse to go to the outside, right? Like it's one thing to say out and around, yeah, in the crowd. One thing to say out and around, and if they come at you, block, flag, hand, whatever, and say, stay off of me, go out there. But if you're sending them by between you and the fence, there's they have to find the line. Not on me, but the fence is also there.
Short girls unit. Yeah, exactly. And so the horse would come by, and Buck, like, he's like, you need to use your lead guiding hand, because that was part of like what he was wanting people to see. But of course, as soon as that horse was going to come by me, I could feel it ready to so I just was like, not there, and tried again.
Block with your flag or block with your lead rope?
Kind of block with my lead rope, like basically like, try it again and don't come over.
Reassess your trajectory.
Exactly. And the horse got it. But he really wanted me to show the guiding hand.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't even really an option because my guiding hand doesn't reach.
Yeah.
But
it's an interesting thing how that block with the lead rope can set them back enough to reset or to block the forward. It's interesting how much that can put them on the outside feet or set them to the outside of the track that you want them on, as opposed to that shoulder coming in. I don't know, just had the thought that's an interesting, I don't know if without experience I would have guessed that would happen. It doesn't seem particularly obvious, logical, I guess. Not logical, but obvious. Which I guess I've showed people that, and they're like, kind of, oh, wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting that it's like block, 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 and then the horse is like, okay.
Oh.
And they just go. So Isaac and Lori and Oliver were there, and it was Isaac's first buck Brannaman clinic.
Yeah.
If you can believe that. And so we were talking at lunch. I guess we were talking at lunch after the foundation class. And it was like, you know, horses are like water. They're just going to go where the path of least resistance is. And then, of course, we want to draw them forward into peace. But it was interesting for Isaac to observe that in a way that was more dramatic than what they usually see with my horses. Like, it's more obvious. Ike was so funny because he's like, you know, this guy thinks he's a horse trainer? I'm like, oh, no. He goes, because he's training people. I'm like, yeah. And then later he goes, he's very thoughtful at lunch. And he goes, you know, having a master is one thing. Having a master that can teach, now you've got something special.
Yeah. That's cool.
I thought that was a good observation.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool to observe from the outside. No real experience or context of the horse thing to see that. That's cool. And
he did a little filming for me too, for us too as well, for the Buck channel. So I do not have that footage yet, but I will, I hope. Oh, here's the other thing. I already told you about this, but it bears repeating. So Boozy rolls out.
Oh, yeah.
It was so good.
Don't bother asking.
It was good last year.
Yeah. Don't bother asking her to put words to it because she has none. I already tried. Right.
The only thing I will say that I observed that that logically crossed my mind for the first time ever. Longitudinal flexion. But basically starting under the saddle, under the middle of the saddle, and going around underneath to the midline. Like over the horse's back. Right? A lot of times we think about flexion from the longitudinal flexion in particular. You know, when you're super green, you think about it in the head. When you get a little farther along, you think about it in the neck. When you get a little farther along, you know, it goes all the way underneath your, past the withers. But for the first time ever, I really saw the range of motion from where the saddle is, over the horse's hip, you know, over the horse's back, over the horse's hip, down the hind leg, and really how much farther he was carrying himself with his hind legs more forward. But in a way that just made me see flexibility there. Flexion. What someone was there. The reach and power Boozy gets in extended trot as well. Yeah. Everything he was doing. So, and Boozy is stubby. For those of you guys that didn't see him, like when he started, it was just like it was a bit like your horse has died and you're just getting whatever. So to see, it's just whatever's handy, you know? So to see him.
Do you have any video of Boozy early on? Or that was kind of pre-Buck?
It was pre-Buck channel, sadly. Yeah, so I don't know if some people have Legacy of Legend video or something like that. You know, one of them that sticks out in my mind a lot is Arizona, 2019, I think. or 2020. Maybe 2020. I don't remember. But I mean, it was like you just grabbed whatever was available. So to see him turn into this, and he was good last year. I was already impressed last year. So it was so cool. What a blessing to watch live, number one. Number two, to have Isaac there filming so I didn't have to, because I sacrifice a lot for us, you guys, looking through the phone, to film, because it hurts you in terms of getting it into your eyeball. It hurts me in terms of getting it into my eyeballs. So whenever, like Nicole was there this last weekend shooting too for us, so it's a huge gift to me so that I can just watch.
That's cool.
Yep.
So when you say the midline, so down the hind leg, back up the front of the hind leg to the midline, or
basically the
lift, the reach and the lift that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which sounds silly, because it's not like the horse wasn't walking out a long time ago where, he was reaching into his front hoof prints. Like, it's just not the same.
Yeah, and it's not even like at a certain point they can't reach more forward without stepping on themselves. It's more the compression and the lift associated with that reach. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it all has to come together as they develop, that there's more openness up and open in the front. But like I said, for me, really watching a horse, basically what it looked like was someone who starts yoga, let's say, or, starts one of those splits, learning to do the splits. That's not a good example. I'm just saying, someone whose muscles are tight because they haven't trained them, or maybe not tight, but just not long. So he was free last year. He was. But to see those muscles, they look like they are longer. Like the actual range of motion is more than one would think is natural. Started stretching. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to think, because like at first, if a horse is tight for whatever reason, not even necessarily because they're touchy, but they're just, who knows, they could be stressed out about the environment or just not educated, maybe they don't understand what you're doing, whatever. And then they get freed up and turned loose. So then you have certain more range of motion. Katniss is a great example, right? Mm-hmm. She's just not habituated to being free. And she'll figure that, you know what I'm talking about, like just getting wider, but she's mentally quite settled and knows the steps. It's just going to be a matter of gymnasticizing so that she can do X, Y, Z with what she has available today. So let's just say that was Boozy years ago. And then to see what he has trained himself to do, because I wouldn't even say that Buck's not training him to do anything. Mm-hmm. He knew all the steps. It's just allowing him to become more and more and more gymnastic.
And
so freaking cool. And
you mentioned, or Buck, I can't remember the dialogue around the spade bit, but he recently put Boozy in the spade bit. How did Buck talk about how much, like what that did for him? I mean, like how much more did that allow him to stretch or encourage him to stretch? Or
it's a good question. I did not ask it. That's a great question.
Huh.
I think he would just say, meh.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of him, just time adding up. And he said he's going to get even better. I'm like, how? In what way?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot envision it.
Yeah, because I was thinking, And maybe I even said it in Santa Cruz. Like, how can this, like, what more is he going to do with this horse, right? Like, he's got to be, I'm kind of done what I'm going to do. On to the next, bring another snaffle bit horse along and move Beef into the Hackamore on the 2-rein. Yeah, that's interesting. It'd be cool to see where that goes, if there's that much more to come.
If it has to do with the spade bit, I am a believer. I doubt that it does, but maybe. What do I know? But okay, who saw the spade bit bridling video? Show of hands. And all the hate that brought in the comments and people fighting over it. They're still fighting over it. Anyone? Yes. Has or would Buck suggest when to take a horse from a snaffle to what? From a snaffle to
spade bit finished horse.
Oh yeah, Taylor, go check it out and briefly read the comments. Don't get sucked in. Those comments are crazy. They're still going to. It's hilarious. So
we need
in the tradition,
everyone to go to the comments and flame it up again, like just really add some fuel there.
It's so pointless. But I really wish that every single one of those people who were just like, and I think it comes from a place of like caring about the horse, 90% of it, the horse and this is such a medieval thing, and like there's all this emotional anxiety and they can't sleep at night and they feel like they have to say something. It's like, I wish I could just transport them into the arena, like standing next to me in class, and just be like, look, calm down. Can you see how happy and content and turned loose this horse is? Like, you could not find a horse that is more content than Boozy. It's just you cannot. And it would just calm them down and give them some peace. Be like, it's okay. Never mind, you should have trusted Buck in the first place. But don't trust Buck. Look at the result. But you can't, unfortunately, put everyone, 20 feet away from it where you can feel the peace and power arriving at the same time. It really doesn't have anything to do with the spade bit. That's just a finished tradition, and to show that the horse can be so soft and content. Never mind that the spade bit is not even a horse bit, but whatever. To go back and answer the question about snaffle bit to spade bit. So the process that Buck learned from Ray was you start the horse in the snaffle bit, and you basically, few rides in the halter, snaffle bit for like about a year. Buck likes to ride him a year and a half-ish. And they know everything in the snaffle bit, basically. And then you ride in the Hackamore, like a rawhide Hackamore usually, with hair, reins, and romo. Hare McCarty. And then the next stage is the 2-rein, which is a tiny little pencil Hackamore underneath a bridle bit. Typically he rides in a half breed. And so the Hackamore stage is usually 6 months to a year. And then the 2-rein, let's say a year-ish. And then straight up in the bridle for a bit. And then he would put the spade bit on. But really, Michael and I have been studying with Buck for 12 years, and this is the first time I've seen him even bother to go to the spade bit, I think. So.
Yeah. And did you ask him why? Too?
Yeah, I mean.
Why bother?
He's just like, yeah, it's fun. Interesting. I should ask him though, is that the secret to Boozy's like success? But I just wish I could.
How's it feel now that you got some brakes on your horse?
You should tell that story.
I want to tell that story.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord. I wrote with a snaffle or Hackamore. Yeah. and that's fine. You can get along really, really good in the snaffle bit. Of course, Zorro, my PRE, my big black horse, I still have him in the snaffle bit all these years later. On my other horses, he would have made a bridle horse by now because it's been 3.5 years, or at least we'd be getting close. But for me, with that horse, to get him content and really, really overcoming some of his stress in the snaffle bit has been my journey with him. So who cares, you know? So anyway, yes, brakes. Get yourself a spade bit. We're kidding, of course. And Buck is so passionate about the tradition. It means so much to him, you know, and that's very cool. And to do it with that quality, of course, is a huge gift.
Yeah.
To the people, and a gift to me, because I don't have to worry about that because he's in charge of all that right now. So anyway.
And yet he doesn't get obsessed about the tradition. Like, it's just what he does. Like, he's not like, it's not his shtick to just teach about the tradition and all the garb and the, you know, the gear. And like, the gear is there, and like, you know, you're always wearing the pencil hack more underneath the bozalita underneath the bridle. Like, he wouldn't not, but it's about the horse. It's not about the gear. I mean, he will answer questions about it. He definitely, it's important to him, but he's not selling that.
And it's certainly not more important than the horsemanship itself.
Yeah.
It's fun to see it all. So anyway, Boozy, wild. Very
How
cool.
about Beef?
Yeah.
What's new with Beef? My favorite.
Now he's your favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's looking great. I mean, I don't know, he's just kind of boring because he's just going along, looking all perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get a better horse. Get something more interesting. Like a reservation.
The horse is too perfect. It's too easy.
Of course.
You have to train.
Once again, it's going to be fun to, you know, because there are people that were so stressed out about him being behind the vertical, you know, of course, and it's like, why don't you guys just trust the process? Because look at the result. Like, anyway, there's not really a lot to tell about Beef that stood out to me, other than it's just a pleasure to watch it all shaping up, and he makes, you know, Buck very happy, of course. It would have, and also because we were in the small arena in the morning, you know, and you didn't ride him in the afternoon, so there, you know, there's a limited amount of things. But actually Shooter was the more interesting one, I thought, because Shooter tends to be like, you know how Beef is so bendy, like he's bendy longitudinally, and he's bendy laterally. Like, there's not really anything blocked, you know, on that horse. But Shooter can be stiffer in the neck and the front legs a little bit, right? So Buck, just doing all the things he does to get the horse softer, particularly at canter, and I mean, this is, of course, as you know, this is small degrees, but it all looks really nice, and then all of a sudden it looks really, really nice, and you can definitely see it in Shooter. So it's fun, and it was really fun to watch it in boring, because it was really, it's like canter, 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 canter. Like you're like, whoa, there's so many more moments in each stride than there was a couple seconds ago. And he's carrying it for maybe 3 or 4 strides. Really, I mean, it's pretty. It reminds me of Willow. Just, that's what I'm projecting on that, where all of a sudden it's like, wow. Oh, other cool thing. Did I tell you about this? This is a cheat, you guys, for those of you that weren't there. So Buck's note to everyone in boring, I thought was really, really good, was even if it takes 10 pounds of pressure, hypothetically, to get your horse set back for the turnaround, set back and into the turnaround, it could immediately be 1 ounce of pressure to keep your horse balanced over the hind leg. And that's kind of a dramatic way to say it. Usually that's not what it is. But his point was really cool, I think, because it highlighted how little it can take once you do have all the horse's weight balanced over the outside hind foot. That it can, basically, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. It's more reminders to maintain, particularly if your timing is there.
Mm-hmm. Corey says, Shooter seems to be at a place where he is making massive progress each ride. Yeah. And I liked how Buck described how he rides each horse differently to match their needs. Agree. Wouldn't you say Beef's kind of boring?
Come on, you guys. Stop hating on Beef.
Just kidding. I'm just saying, it's like someone who you expect to be good. It's just like, meh.
He's not even a coming from behind horse.
No, exactly. He's not a misfit. Boring. He's not a physical redo. Boring. Like, yay,
Or
good
if he
job.
was a misfit or a physical redo, he would be more interesting.
Yeah. Anyway.
But it's the seeing it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think Beef is a magical unicorn who lost his horn, Meg.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yep. And I mean, how exciting is a unicorn anyway? It's like, oh, look, a unicorn. Great. I'm going to learn a lot from you. It'll be cool. It'll be cool to see. But because there just really hasn't been anything.
I think if you saw a unicorn, you'd be like, holy hell, unicorns do exist. Like, I just saw a unicorn. I can't believe it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I just ride the tiny unicorn, who is less impressive, I guess, slightly. Oh, it was great. I mean, it's great.
Beef, for me, is the length of his legs and just the way he's connected. Like, if we talk about, humans' arms or legs being connected from their core or center, a horse can kind of like be disjointed in that same way, and Beef is just one flowing unit, and the length of his limbs and his neck, like, it just makes everything seem more elegant, I guess.
Boring.
Hopefully Buck doesn't watch this and hear you talking smack about Beef.
He knows we all love Beef, but I mean, seriously, what do you do? No, you're right, of course. And what's really cool, it's neat to watch the horse grow into himself. as well. And of course, Buck makes it look like boring because everything's in order and nothing is messy. Although I hear that he's maybe a little bit more concerned about cattle, but I haven't gotten to see any of that. And I'm sure that it at some point, if I did get to see that, it would be over. Anyway, what is the comment, Michael?
Oh, goodness. Nicole said, although the perfect ones show, I can't read it because I have my little stand here is blocking it. You got to read it.
Okay. Nicole, although the perfect ones show much of what it should look like, I love watching the ones where everything isn't perfect. I feel like I learned so much from them. Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Megan said
when Buck takes a horsing class, I mean, wow, the things you can take from that are pretty phenomenal as well. Yeah.
Megan says Beef is just reminding us that we are peons and Buck is otherworldly. Yes. But even so, wouldn't it be more interesting to watch Buck redo horses, or like?
Well, everybody, buddy, send that feedback
No,
to buckchannel.com.
Do not.
No, not the feedback that Beef is boring, but like, hey, it really is beneficial for us to see you. Like, I can't remember, I don't know whose horse it was, but there's a video on the Buck channel. I'm not sure if it's still up right now, but Buck working some gal's horse.
Jamie's, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the indoor last winter, a couple winters ago, where and the horse is just a little troubled, and I can't remember exactly what he was doing for her, except that she was kind of maybe trying not to rile him too much. That's what
I remember too. Yeah.
How it struck me, if I remember correctly. And then Buck just got in there and was like, "Oh, we gotta see all this, and you'll be fine." And it didn't take long at all, but just to see how he presented it, and so. Another comment to read. Go ahead.
So Taylor said she would love to see it. Hey, by the way, Taylor, are you a member of the Buck channel? Because it sounds like maybe you would really like that. Go to thebuckchannel.com. Buck has a membership platform that he's publishing videos on. Megan says, I agree, Nicole. I'm inspired by Beef and Boozy, but I learned so much from the horses. He's working through things. I'm going to tell. This is how Buck does it. He said to me the other day, he's like, you're late. Because he thinks, if I'm on time, that means I'm late, right? And
he thinks if I'm on.
Well, he's still pissed because we made him late for his tea time. Anyway, he's like, me and Kip talked about it. You're always late. So we're going to be like, me and the guys talked about it.
It's like Siri.
Me and the we'll be like, oh, we talked about it on the show, you guys, and Buck, and we think that you need to have some more challenging horses so that we can learn. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay. So Lisa says, gosh, even Buck deserves the occasional unicorn. That is so true. Be like, we're happy for you, but we're kind of over it. Taylor said, I'm going to get a month membership because I won't be able to do the annual membership yet. Oh yeah, that's what I have, month-to-month membership. I wish he had me record Beef's changes for the Buck channel throughout the week of branding at the OW. Big changes. Yeah, Nicole, we should at least be like, okay, if you're gonna have a unicorn, then maybe at least record the stuff that's hard for him.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's all good. All of it is so good. And, it's going to be really cool to see on Beef being serious. What'll be cool is to see what's, when you start with something so good, where do you take it, right? And he's already talking about how his Hackamore stage is going to be short, which obviously, you know, I'm curious to see the flying changes. You know,
what is he saying recently as to how long or how far from the Hackamore stage he is? Because it seems like he's only 10% there or 30% there, and then like
then suddenly
2 weeks later he's like he's ready for the Hackamore. Like it all happened. The last 60% happened in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. And he would be like, yeah, that's how it is. So I really hope that Des, any of you guys that know Des at McGinnis Meadows, send her a little message and be like, can you put some pressure on Buck? Because he's going to work on the changes at McGinnis. So it'd be great if we could have that on video. And don't forget, he does have his microphone there, so you just need to pressure him into putting that on as well so we can hear about it. So I wish, yeah. So anyway, that's the story with that. So can I say one thing about what I'm excited about here? I'm picking up Remy today.
Oh, really?
So it's
long?
been well, as long as I want. So I'm super curious what's been going on with him, because so you guys, this is an Arabian, Egyptian Arabian, who I played with a bit and recorded some stuff for Horsemanship Insider, which is my membership platform, in 2021, fall of 2021. And he's in the rescue horse files, and he got adopted out to a really nice family. And it's gone okay-ish, I think. But they, you know, he needs a little bit more attention than they're interested in doing, because they, you know, life happens, and they have broke horses to ride. So they just want to go trail riding and have fun. And he was unstarted when they got him. So I'm going to go pick him up today. He's coming to my house, which he's never been here before. So really curious, like dying of curiosity.
So how did they get him started? Did they start him? Did they have someone start him? Is he still?
They had someone start him. They've ridden him. They said he started to get naughty. I don't know. I do not know. I will assess. They said he had 60 days twice. And I have not heard with whom, although I won't be saying anyway. It doesn't matter. Someone who is doing their best, I'm sure. Who knows? Maybe he's just going to be a disaster. I don't know. Dying.
Fun.
Yeah. Yep. So, what else? Your horse is knifey with her hind feet.
Knifey?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I put her, so she and Novella became fast friends at Dayton, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got home and I put them out in the orchard.
I know, yeah. No kidding. She's gonna do her best to get to the top of the pecking order in no short order. I guess I didn't warn you about that.
Which I don't mind. It's just that she's willing to get someone in the corner and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah. So, she is a very good leader when she makes it to the top, though. It's amazing how much, like, she is very quiet about it. Yep. Once she finds that spot. And it's interesting, whatever herd you put her in, she would, what is knifey? She would kind of bring order to it. Like, there could be some real scattered elements, but as long as she was in there, everyone just kind of minded their manners. Yeah. But I don't think I told you this. I think it was, yeah. When I was at my parents' place for some reason, coming through there with my horses, and I put her in. I don't know if I was going to be there for a while or why we were putting them all in together, but I put her in with my dad's mare, another quarter horse, and they went at it because that mare was not thinking about backing down. Also, I mean, they were just tail to tail, pounding it out. They both walked away lame for, not too long, but they were both sore. But at the end of it, that mare was like, get me the hell out of this arena. Like, Katniss came out on top so much. The other mare was like, I've got to get further away from her than I am able to right now. I mean, she was looking to be out of there.
That's how Brooke was last night. So Novella, so I hear the squealing because Novella's kicky too. That's her only defense, but she just wants a horse away from her. She's not a punisher.
Mm-hmm.
Katniss is a punisher. Now, to be fair, when Katniss is done, it appears that she's done.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, for instance, Rook and Novella will repeatedly, every week, just get in a tail-to-tail, squealing, kicking out at each other deal. But they don't connect.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And I'm like, my tiny unicorn, So I go out there with the flag, then I sheriffed around for a little bit, and then it was fine. And by then, dominance had already been established between the two of them anyway, so it was very, very quiet for the last few days. And it was great for Novella and I's relationship, because at first Novella was like, oh my gosh, she's running around, tail in the air, belly to the ground, head and then pretty soon she got the idea, because I was like, no, Katniss, forget it, get out of here, right? So Novella comes behind me and she's like, oh, I'm like, mm-hmm. But then that was it. And then I went up and pet her, scratched on her. She's like, good. So last night I put Rook out with them because, I'm trying to get everything organized here, and they had been paddock to turnout with no big deal, right? Oh God, it was fine for a few minutes, but then I was up on the hill with Zorro. My flag was far, far away, and all of a sudden, Katniss has Rook pinned up against the fence in the corner and is kicking the shit out of her. And I'm like, peeling off my t-shirt for a flag, and I separated them, but Rook was trying to get out, like at that point, right? She's like shaking her head, like digging at the fence, covered in kick marks, I'm like, but then Katniss was done. And Rook is kicky too, is the thing, a little snobby. Yeah. So I have a
Which
feeling.
Is why she got cornered by Katniss. If she was pretty willing to get out of the way. Yeah, Kat just, So Val, you kind of know what knife he is now, I think.
And Megan says, Novella is little. She's going to protect herself. She's so cute. Thank you. Yeah, it's her only method of defense for sure. But yeah, it's interesting to think about Katniss getting in there and punishing to some degree. Like, that's essentially what it looks like, because it's way beyond where they were yielding. But then it really is done. She's not having to readdress it at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if I call it punishing, but it's certainly we're only going to do this once sort of feeling to it. Because once, I don't know, maybe you'll find this. Once she has kind of asserted herself, if a horse kind of questions that, she will back up into them, but she will hold off kicking, going, seriously, you want it again? Like, she will say, I'm coming for you, but hold off actually delivering unless that horse truly challenges her.
Which
Which they're not going to after their first interaction, where she is like, you can kick the crap back at me, but I'm going to give it to you.
She definitely takes it farther than I would. One second. What is going on here? I don't know. These cats are so loud all of a sudden. Val says, you both teach
get big and get it done. Is that what Katniss is doing?
Yeah, like I said, though, Katniss takes it farther than I would. Because what I observed with both horses is she had them in the corner where they could not get away. And she was kicking them. And they were trying to get away. So I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But
wonder if she's not aware there's corners. You know, like, you're not getting away from me. Get the hell out of this corner, and then I'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
And Rook is like, I can't get out of the corner.
Yeah. And Novella, they ended up in the same corner too, which probably is, I mean, it's the one closest to the herd and where you would think you would get away. And it is kind of unfortunate that there's a corner there.
Yeah, because I don't know that I've ever seen her like intentionally run into a corner.
Oh,
you know,
well, it didn't look intentional in terms of her backing, but once they were there, she was not going to let him out.
Mm-hmm.
At least not until I don't know when, but you know, I dug them out of the corner and sent her away.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's been no back talk then, and so poor Rook, you know, like I said, she's 3 big hoof prints. Like, I gotta go look and see how sore her ribs are today. But I'm like, you know, you're fine. But she was really, really wanted out of the pen. Or, you know, out of the orchard. But I kept poking my eye, and Katniss we had other things to do, and she's eating like far, far away. She wasn't, you know, it's like, I don't know, whatever. Don't make me go there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
I've always enjoyed watching her find her way to the top, because it is pretty quick usually.
I'm gonna have to be a little careful because Maggie.
She's pretty dominant too.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, but I don't know that Maggie's gonna pick a fight. She won't, in fact, versus Novella and Rook. Probably when I didn't see it, but I'm sure they were like, "Hey, you move," because she seems pretty chill.
Mm-hmm.
And then Katniss was like, "Actually,
Not how this works."
Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Zorro and Maggie. Zorro's not a good leader. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. But he doesn't. But he's getting along just fine. There's been some scrabbling around. So anyway, I'm gonna be a little careful in terms of the big herd like that. So red mares. Ha! Yeah, but like I said, Michael is exactly right. It's like, once it's over, it's over. She's not holding any grudges. She has a soft expression, tail swishing, far away. She's not even like, "Hey, you move away from your food again." No. Like, oh. Yeah. But it's hold my beer. Totally. Totally. Oh my God. And then it's like someone's crying in the corner after being beaten with a pool cue. And meanwhile, she's back at the bar hanging out with her friends. Are any of your mares possessive? You are
of
their
you
person.
As their person.
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, they get to be where they're very, very connected to me. But I wouldn't say that. No, I don't let them do that because when I'm around, I get to say. So they don't really get to do that. Is that what you would say too, Michael?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm in charge. Zorro's so funny. Because, you know, I go out there with the cart, right? With the trolley. And he thinks he's going to move them all around. Once again, I'm like, are you high? What are you thinking? So then he has to run around. I'm like, go over there, go over there, go over there. Go. And then he's like, yeah, you poor thing. You just don't get it at first, you know, back at the bar. I'm serious, Val. It's so hilarious. But I hope everyone's okay. Anyway, I haven't heard any squealing from out there. We didn't get woken up. I'm sure it's fine. Herd dynamics hammocks. Yeah. So the other thing about Katniss is it was really interesting to. Did you watch that little video?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
Yo.
Sorry. It's 8 o'clock.
Exactly. Should be done.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, hands down. And what's interesting is how it always starts that way. There seems to. And which is very short and stabby. And the forward, well, let's say it always starts that way. And it's interesting how some days we come out of that and loosen up much more quickly, and other days we seem kind of locked into that. And it probably has to do with me as much as anything. But when you're sending her forward in that little clip or that short video, you really see the forward and around loosening up the hind leg. Yeah, it's tough because it doesn't, you're not doing much, right? So much of it is in the release, right?
Yeah.
It could, because she is so responsive. I mean, there's nothing in her that's saying, whatever, or, shut up, or, I mean, we just talked about her being extremely dominant in the herd. She does not present that at all with the human. I mean, she is just like happy to do your thing, really willing. So it's not a matter of having to do a lot to shift things. It's just a matter of how, when she has the idea, capturing it, right?
Mm-hmm. And setting it up, I think, gymnastically for her. Like when I was cantering her around, I am putting shoes on her front shoes on her next week.
Definitely don't want hind shoes on her at this point.
She probably doesn't need them anyway, but so she was a tiny bit footsore, especially in that arena. She was better when I was riding her on the golf course.
Yeah.
But so we just only did a little bit, but I'm so excited to get to continue that project of spreading her out across the ground at canter. Mm-hmm. But we picked right up off from where we had in February. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we had to kind of get reconnected or anything. But yeah, it's just setting it up for her to think about the gymnastics as something separate, and I think she's going to be a really good example for Horsemanship Insider because she already knows all of it, basically.
She knows the curriculum. She just doesn't know how to move her body otherwise. Because I don't know if you've observed it in the pasture. She moves very tight and short, or very flat, just moving about too. It's not like she's a very round,
She's not beef.
She's not beef. Hell, she's far from beef. So yeah.
Well, but that's not her fault, or
no, but
it's just.
I'm saying it's not just.
Oh. Yeah.
It's, she doesn't know how to use her body well otherwise. So to me, that's why I was excited for you to show her some of that, because it's not something I believe, and I felt at times what she's capable of being, in moments and in some really good rides. But by and large, it's kind of like, well, what could this horse do? Because what she looks like, even in her best moments on her own, is not really, you know, you're not like, oh, wow, I wish, you know, I could get the horse to do that on my terms. She looks so, you know, powerful and round and, you know, elevated and, you know, just beautiful moving across the pasture. Not at all. And she would not be the one, if there was a herd of horses moving around out there, that I'd be like, that one, I want to ride that one. She's a really nice looking mare. I mean, like, I like how she's put together, but the way she moves naturally without some help in the gymnasticizing is not particularly appealing. So I'm curious to see what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Not boring. Hashtag not boring.
Yeah. Hashtag not boring. Requires a little bit of effort.
Yeah. But it's
way cooler than beef.
Way cooler than beef. Yeah. I mean, geez, come on. You know, the best part about beef, well, he makes Buck so happy.
Yeah.
I love that. But anyway, yep. So I'm fixing to ride Katniss this morning, actually. So it'll be our first ride here. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah. So what I was going to say about her is just that the other thing that's cool that she and I like each other, obviously, you know, we've known each other for a while now, but the bonding, the real bonding, of course, hasn't happened yet. So like when I rode her in the big rodeo arena by herself, you know, she's calling to the barn, very obedient, of course, very obedient, but not the same feeling of like.
Really? She was calling?
A little bit.
I've never had her. That's wild.
Not a ton.
I don't think I've ever had her make a peep. Now, granted, I wasn't like, I mean, I've ridden her out away from horses and yeah.
Yeah, we were by ourselves.
But it's a little bit more of an insecure environment where, you know, my buddy who I just met and all the other horses are over there and I'm not new play. Yeah, that's interesting.
It was twice, I think. It was twice and it wasn't a big deal. But even if she hadn't called, you could still feel that you know, she was with me, but not in a way that was like, there's no place else I'd rather be. Like if I had peeled everything off and you know, taken off her bridle or whatever, she would have gone back to the barn. And that won't always be like that. So again, hashtag not boring. Let's see. Taylor says, my off the track senior rescue just offered her back hoof after weeks of being scared to let me. Aw, small win. That's a big win. Yeah. A horse starting to collaborate. Very cool. Very, very cool.
That is cool. So I have 2 little kids looking for my attention.
And you're on vacation with the family. I'm on vacation.
I'm at the cabin, at my friend's cabin.
And you guys are what are you guys going to do today, this week? You go hiking?
No. And we're on the lake, so we'll be tubing and I don't know what all else they'll be up for, but they're looking forward to tubing. Yeah.
Cool. Our lake trip.
Watching the older kids wakeboard and whatnot. So.
Fun?
Yeah.
Fun. Very cool. Well, have an awesome time. Thanks for doing the show anyway.
You bet. And good to hear about Dayton and boring.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. So
missed being there.
Glad
you guys had fun without me.
You heard about Florida, right?
Yeah.
So
see about that.
Those of you guys that have not heard yet, Buck Brannaman has agreed to do a clinic in Ocala, Florida in January 12, 13, 14. So party in Ocala in January, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the story. worries. Have a great weekend. You too, Taylor. Anyways, what else? Yes, have a great weekend, everybody. And we will see you next Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
8:30 Central.
And remember, you guys can watch these back on Spotify and listen to them on all the podcast platforms, especially in case you missed the last 2 shows with Buck. Okay, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.